So I'm so excited this morning. I have a guest who has been here with me a few times before. He is one of the co-founders of Juju Mama Love Academy, Coaching and Love Academy, with his partner, Kenya Stevens, of over 20 years. They are also, like I said, they run Juju Mama. And then Rakhem is my guest today, and he is also the author of several books. One of them, which is what we are going to be discussing today. I'm so excited. He has written a new book called The Art of Open Relating. Good morning, Rakhem. How are you?
Good morning, Monique. How are you? Great.
Stop it.
I'm so happy to be back on the show.
Thank you. I'm happy to have you here. That's for sure.
Our very first interview for the book.
I'm so excited about your book. It is amazing. It is amazing. I have been reading it all weekend. So thank you for writing this incredible book. I think that this book is going to give people a lot of information about what it means to be in an open relationship. And there's nobody as perfect to help people along the path than you, because you have been open relating in your partnership for a long time. So can you tell us a little bit about that in your relationship with your wife?
Yeah, the background is Kenya and I got married. We met in 95 on a blind date, and we're married in 96. And we were actually monogamous. A lot of people think that we started out in an open relationship. That's not true. We were monogamous for about 12 years or so. Mm-hmm. And we had a series of events that happened in our marriage. Kenya, about 4 years in, had some feelings for another guy. Mm-hmm. And so we talked about that. We went to our marriage counselors about that and just say, like, what is this? Because our impression was once you get married, those feelings pretty much go away for the most part for other people, and we were just naive that way. I mean, I know a lot of people are like, what are you talking about? But that's what we thought. We kind of believed that. Mm-hmm. And so we went to our marriage counselors. They were like, that kind of stuff happens. Just ignore it. So we were like, cool. A number of years later, I had a similar experience where I had these feelings of love for another woman. And again, Kenya and I kind of discussed that. We talked about it. And over a course of years after that, we decided to open our relationship. It wasn't a very straightforward thing. We had no background on open relating or polyamory. We didn't really know what that was. Mm-hmm. All we knew was that we had these feelings before they came up, and that they felt real, and that we should probably create a container to allow us to actually, follow through with those feelings and see kind of where things went. And we just made sure that, we stayed dedicated to each other and committed to each other and our marriage and our family and kids and business. And then we started the open relationship journey from there. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So the thing that strikes me as very interesting is that you guys had attractions to other people and you went to one another about it. Yeah. Who does that? Like, nobody goes to talk to their spouse about being attracted to somebody else. So that's the first thing. Like that. Let's talk about that in the American culture around marriage and dating and the secrecy and the shame and the fear around what it means to relate to others or be attracted to others. Like, how did you come to this experience of deciding to talk to your partner about it rather than hiding it and creating some sort of, clandestine relationship where there's secrets involved?
Yeah, you know what? I think, part of it was being naive to a degree. So just some background, Monique. Kenya and I had a really great experience, when we first were dating and early on in our marriage. And what I mean by that is, there was never like a feeling of distrust between us or feeling like we had to lie about stuff or keep anything hidden. Like, we really talked about everything. I mean, one of the reasons why Kenya and I got together is because the conversation was amazing, and it was just like we were able to talk about so many things, and, we would just talk for hours every night. We would go out on dates and just talk for hours. Mm-hmm. So we never had that. And I remember in our relationship, especially for the first few years, how that looks. where a woman has like complete and total trust for her husband, and her husband has total and complete trust for his wife. I mean, it's just, oh my God, the freedom was amazing. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was wonderful. And I'm saying that to say, you know, that's kind of where we are now. We had to go through a journey where it was like, okay, you know, where some of that fell away, but now we're kind of back in that same place, and it feels really good to be there. So, you know, Monique, part of it was just, again, our connection to each other and also our belief around marriage. I mean, you know, no one had an idea that they were going to cheat on each other or whatever. Like, we were really committed for life. We knew that. So there was no need to really hide anything. There was no need to lead a double life or duplicitous life.
Okay. I love that. That's profound, because, as you know, that's not what the culture says about relationships. Like, there's a whole industry built around infidelity. So,
Correct.
So this experience of open relating feels like it is it's a solution for the things that we can't deal with in our relationships. So let's talk about open relating and a little bit in your book. The first thing that I really wanted to talk about is, how are you defining open relationship? What does that mean to you?
Yeah, great question. For me, open relationships or open relating means that, you know, your relationship is based on choice, right? So it's choosing to love your partner, choosing to be with your partner, also choosing to live your life authentically, right? So it basically means that we don't lose a level of autonomy that we came into the world with, right? And we're allowing ourselves to be organic in our expression. The difference between open relating and polyamory, in terms of how I put it in my book, is when somebody says they are open or they're open relating, it basically means that your interaction with them is going to be based on, you know, the authentic connection between you all, and not based on a set of rules or protocols or that kind of thing. Like, for example, in polyamory, many polyamorous couples have rules. Like, you can't date more than one person. You can't sleep with them before the spouse meets them. So when you come in contact with a polyamorous couple, you don't really know exactly what you're getting with that, right? When you come in contact with somebody who's open relating, you know that, hey, this is really about me and you. And if we hit it off, it's because we have that connection and that we want to do that. If we don't, it's because we didn't have that connection, not because of some kind of rule set or some kind of limitation that the spouse has put on the relationship. And again, I know some polyamorous relationships don't have any rules, and that's great. But I'm saying, if you line up 100 polyamorous couples, all of those relationships are going to look different. All the rule sets are going to look different. With open, it's more about freedom. It's what I call freedom-based relating.
Okay, so as I'm listening to you, I can just hear my own voice around the fear of you have a partner, and then you fear that they're going to be emotionally connected to someone else. There's such a fear of abandonment, such a fear of being rejected in our normal cultural experience of monogamous relationships. So how do you, in open relating, get to the place where you're not afraid that your partner is going to be attracted to someone else, and then that means that you are out the door? Like, what happened? You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a deeper commitment to open relating and not being ruled by fear. Let's talk about that, because I feel like that's what everyone is so concerned about in relationships, that your partner, they can't talk to other people of the opposite sex because that's going to get out of control. You know, they can't be friends with people or go to dinner or lunch with their friends who are of the opposite sex because that's going to threaten their marriage. Like, how do you go from that to this?
So, first of all, most people should be scared to go into open relating. And do you remember in the book where I said I don't recommend it for most couples nowadays?
Yes.
And the reason why is because most people, you know, when they get into a relationship with somebody, they're not really being truthful with that person. Remember how I told you with Kenya and I, like, there was complete and total trust. Like, we told each other everything. You know what I'm saying? Like, she was having dreams about this guy and, like, really was super sexually attracted to him, and she told me about it. and we went to our marriage counselors about it. You know, it's like, we just talked. Like, everything that came up, we talked about. If I had attraction or if I was angry, like, whatever it was, we talked about it. Most people are not being authentic when they get into a relationship. And that's rule number one. That's like a prerequisite for being in an open relationship, is you got to be real. You got to be authentic. So because most people, they kind of, feel their way in the marriage, or kind of manipulate their way in the marriage. They put their best face on. They keep their best face on. They keep that mask on. They do all these things to really try to get somebody to see the part of them that they want them to see, rather than the real them. That, they don't feel confident in the relationship, in the marriage.
Right.
So the only people who have a concern about their partner having an attachment to someone else or leaving them are the people who have not really connected authentically yet, which is most people. You know what I'm saying? So, people should be concerned. If you're holding something back from your partner, if you guys don't have a real, authentic relationship where you can talk about anything, what you really like, what you don't like. Let me give you some examples. A lot of people are not satisfied sexually in their relationship, in their marriage. They haven't talked about it. A lot of people are not satisfied with, how their partner is treating them, or how their partner looks, how they let their bodies go, or whatever. They're not talking about it. That's not a real relationship. That's not authenticity. So, if I was that person, I would be concerned if my partner went out and met somebody else, because there's so much that we haven't discussed and connected on just within our marriage.
Got it. Right. So you're saying that the fact that the truth is not really being explored in the relationship, just an open experience of conversation and being transparent and being authentic, doesn't exist in most relationships. So therefore, that makes them not a good candidate for doing open relating.
Correct.
Okay. Got it. So at some point, you talk about how open relating is like an experience of self-love. Share more about that, because I feel like people think that open relating is really only about sex. So let's talk about how sex contributes to an open relating relationship, and then we'll go into the next conversation or after that.
Well, yeah, so I have a chapter in the book that's early on that says it really is all about the sex. Like, people are so scared of the sex. You're like, no, it's about sex. Like, people are just terrified. And I talk about monogamy and how, well, because we're from a monogamous culture, that, sex is always the center. So again, what defines monogamy is what you do sexually, what you don't do sexually. Like, nothing else defines you being monogamous other than your sexual behavior. So,
what do you mean? You mean because you don't have sex with another person, and that is why you're calling it monogamy?
Well, yeah, like what defines a person as monogamous?
Okay.
What's the central thing that defines someone as monogamous? If you either have sex with just your partner or you don't. If you have sex with just your partner, then you're monogamous. If you don't, then you're not. Okay. Right?
Yeah.
So that's the foundation. So, yeah, the sex plays a big role because, sex is very natural. It's a way that human beings come together, a way that our species survives. You know what I'm saying? It's a way that we bond. It's a way that we connect. So there are going to be a number of scenarios in your life where it's natural to have sex with somebody you come in contact with, or somebody you have a connection with, or somebody you're in a relationship with. Like, to cut sex out of relationships and relating is basically like crippling human beings. It's like suppressing a huge part of who you are. It's crippling the species.
Mm-hmm.
Again, the only way that we survived as human beings early on in our development was through sex, was through sharing everything, including sex.
Mm-hmm.
So we were able to bond more. We were able to relate to each other more. We were able to feel each other more and love each other more and care each other more.
Mm-hmm.
Open Relateds is saying, sex is a big role because it's saying, look, I'm not going to cut that potential out. The potential of what? The potential to relate organically with another human being in any way, shape, or form. Mm-hmm. And look, Monique, like when you look at the sex thing, like how many relationships and connections do people suppress and move away from, even the friendship of it, because they don't want to approach the sex line?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're married, you can't even really talk to somebody without crossing the line in your mind or your spouse's mind that says you're getting too close.
Right.
You said hi too long. You responded to a text. You went out for coffee. You're getting too close to the sex line. So what we're doing is we're cutting ourselves off as a species from other human beings. And what do we have? We have the world we have today where people are just, nobody speaks to each other. People, don't trust each other. There's no connection. So we have to, it's really not about going out and having a bunch of sex. It's about releasing the tension around having sex. Like, just let go. Like, it's okay. Yes, it might happen. It's okay.
Right.
That's what we're talking about.
Right. That is so profound. Like, I just listening to you talk, it makes me nervous. Like, I can feel what comes up around the fears of what it means to be sexually free. And, because as women, for instance, there's this thing that you hear women say, it's like, I don't have anyone else around my man. I don't have other women around my man because he might be attracted to her. So I know women who don't have their girlfriends around their spouses and partners, or there's just a distrust that's always going on. And I'm always curious, how can you relax? How can you experience love? How can you experience connection with your spouse or be connected with your friends when there are these divides, when there's just this constant need for some sort of security? It's almost like you're walking around with, as a detective or with a flashlight trying to see, who wants my man and who's doing this and listening to everything that everyone is saying. And then creating stories around conversations that lead to some sort of fearful experience. Like, that is normal.
Exactly. I mean, well, first of all, like I told you, that people don't really have the love for each other. I wrote a blog post a while ago. I wrote a couple where I was trying to address the fact that men have this hatred towards each other. And like people are like, oh, what are you talking about, Rakhem? Like, what do you mean hatred or whatever? And I said, well, it really comes out when it comes to women. Like one of the things that men hate to even think about is their boy, their friend, or their brother having sex with their woman. It would make that man want to kill him. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? Like those feelings would come up, that rage, that anger. And the question is, well, why would you be angry about your boy, like someone you're super tight with, somebody that you love, having sex with your woman? You know what I'm saying? And the reason is, besides personal insecurities and stuff like that our culture kind of breeds in each of us, where we're trying to find happiness in our worth through other human beings, besides that, is we have this lack of true love for each other. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? So that's what I'm saying. Because we're not sharing sexuality, within our communities, there's no real true bonding.
Right.
And so, so men are the same way. They don't want their boys around their wife or their woman, right? Mm-hmm. There's no trust there. And if he were to have sex with his wife or his girlfriend or whatever, then, he wants to kill him, or the friendship is over. Just some stupid mess. Right. Like we're talking about really immature stuff here in terms of how we got to this point. So I wrote another blog post talking about only alpha males can share women. Mm-hmm. And I use the king lion example, where the king and the other alphas are able to share sex. in larger lion packs are able to share sex. And there's certain other species that are able to do that. And it's because that, you have to be at a certain level in your masculinity and manhood in order to not feel insecure, about yourself to the point where you're not threatened.
Right.
But the thing about it is, when you're able to do that, when you get to that point, now you have a real bond with your brother. Mm-hmm. Now you have a real bond with your sister. Because if you can share sex or you can share your partner or whatever, like what other frontier is there to cross? Mm-hmm. You can do everything together. You know what I'm saying? You can do business, you can do whatever there is. There's no other, that's the top level of insecurity that human beings have.
Right.
Because they find their identity and their happiness and their self-worth in my woman or my man. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yes, it totally makes sense. So the question is, how is it that with open relating, how do you begin to work on those insecurities that come up around your partner being and sharing space with other people? So how do you deal with your jealousy and your insecurities and things like that? How has that worked for you?
Well, you have to start by, working within your current relationship if you're in one. Mm-hmm. And it starts with authentic communication. You have to learn to share how you really feel with your partner. I don't feel the same way I felt for you 5 years ago. I don't like the fact that we argue. I don't like the fact that our sex is not stimulating anymore, or whatever it is. Like, you got to go into those details, mm-hmm. Or I didn't think marriage was going to be like this. I thought it would be better. Mm-hmm. I thought you would change. I thought, you got to have those real discussions that people are refusing to have. They'll just take the drama instead. So that's where it begins. And as you have those real authentic discussions, then you'll be able to start to face yourself and some of your own fears and jealousies. Mm-hmm. And then once you go on that path, you'll be able to start to possibly open up your relationship.
So is that what you are calling mastering monogamy before you do an open relationship?
Yes, that's mastering monogamy. Learn to relate to one person first in a real way. Tell mm-hmm. them the truth. Don't hide who you really are. Like, be the real you. And once you do that with one person, then you can start to do it with multiple people. Even if those people aren't people you're relating with. They mm-hmm. can just be friends or whatever, but learn to be the real you. And inside a relationship, it's more challenging when you're sexual and all that because of all the emotions that come up. Mm-hmm. So if you can be real and authentic inside that relationship and let go of all your jealousies and stuff like that, then you can do it with anybody else.
Okay. And so what does it take? Okay. So we only have 1 minute before we're going to go on a break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about what it really takes to let go of jealousy, because people commit murder over these things you're talking about. We're talking about this very, practically and responsibly, but people's lives are ended over this kind of stuff. So we're going to come back and touch into how do we deal with our pathology, really, personally, so that we can move past the barriers that keep us locked in conditioning that says I need my partner to be happy, or I need them to do certain things to make me feel whole and perfect. And if they don't, then these are the consequences for that. So let's jump right back in. Talk with me about why open relating isn't for everyone, and how people tend to think that they can save their relationships by opening up their marriage. Like if they have sex problems, or challenges with sex or challenges with things in their relationship, they think the solution is, we'll open our marriage up and then we'll just have sex with other people and that will make things better. And tell me a little bit why that doesn't work.
Yeah, and it gets a little bit complex, okay? So I will make the statement that, in general, open relating does not save a troubled marriage. the thing that saves a troubled marriage is people, being real with each other about why they came together, why they got married, and about the challenges that they're facing. And talking to somebody who understands how to deal with that and kind of unpack those issues and has tools and solutions to deal with it. That's number one. Okay. Number two, it gets a little bit complicated because one of the things that people have a challenge with in marriage, and this is just kind of proven statistically, is that, the sex tends to wane for many couples. The longer you're in a marriage, right? And then we have an epidemic in this country of sexless marriages. Mm-hmm. So from that standpoint, open relating is kind of a solution to starting to deal with that. Again, the foundation of it starts with we need to talk about why we feel the way we feel, why we don't want to have sex with each other, like what's actually going on, right? Mm-hmm. But after you kind of unpack that, part of the reason why, people, lose that sexual fire is because we're really not built to just have sex with the same person for life. Like, again, we're not monogamous by nature. Mm-hmm. We're monogamous by culture. We're monogamous by choice, right? And so, no human being can really, I'm not going to say that, but it's very difficult to maintain passion in a marriage for the long term. Okay. Most people are not able to do it. You can have intimacy. You can have love. You can have friendship. You can have commitment. Those things that's the bedrock of marriage. Mm-hmm. But passion, like that tends to wane. And so, and they show, like, for example, with men, that men start to lose testosterone, men who don't cheat start to lose testosterone over the course of time in their marriage. It's not just with age. It's just that's what marriage kind of does, right? Mm-hmm. So from that standpoint, open relating can be a help to, stop a person from just kind of deteriorating sexually. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? Especially once your sexual attraction for your partner and the passion starts to naturally wane. The problem is, open relating is so complex because there's emotions, there's other people, there's jealousies, which is what you want to talk about before, and that stuff comes up. So it's not just about, going to get sexual needs met. It's never that simple. So that's why it's not a solution, because you've got to deal with the other areas that are going to come up when you start open relating. Okay. Like I said, jealousies, insecurities, other people's wants and needs who are outside the primary union, how your partner feels about certain partners, like all these things come up. So it's not a one-for-one thing. Okay. You see what I'm saying? Yes, like a lot of what I'm saying, Monique, is a lot of the issues that people face in monogamous marriage is because they're monogamous. Like, you can't really separate yourself from other human beings in an intimate way and really continue to thrive and have a vigor for life. I haven't really seen that. Right. One time you might see that with people who've got these very, very strong, passions for something, whether it be work or whatever. But most people kind of just start to deteriorate and accept, a lifestyle that involves, more sedentary, movement and expression and a slow deterioration of health, rather than, continue to have a vigor for life. Right.
Okay, so let's dig into this conversation around jealousy. In the book, you talk about jealousy versus compersion. So compersion is not a word that you hear a lot. And if I'm correct, the definition is like being happy when your partner is happy, regardless if they're with you or not.
Correct.
Okay. So yes, that is not jealousy. So let's talk about the difference and how that shows up in open relating.
Yeah, so you're right. Compersion is, I can have happiness and love and joy in my heart when my partner or other people are finding happiness, which seems to be very sane, right? For us as human beings, you want your partner to be happy, even if it's not with you, right? Just like with our children, like we're happy when our children are playing with their best friend and they're having fun. They're not playing with us as their parents, but they're playing with their friends and they're having fun, and we love that. We love that for our children and all involved. That's compersion, okay? Jealousy is the opposite. Jealousy is when I feel a sense of emptiness because I'm not involved in my partner's happiness. So that goes back to, again, the essence of what's kind of instilled in this culture we live in, which is, you know, your happiness is found through things or other people, and that's not the case. Happiness is found within. You have to have a healthy sense of love for yourself and confidence and have some kind of purpose about your life. And if you have those things, then you can get beyond jealousy. Because why? Because you understand that what somebody else does should not in any way trigger emotions from you that cause you to feel unworthy. You see what I'm saying? So,
yes.
So you have to deal with that, you know, before you get into open relating and once you get into it, because you can't deal with it. You're not going to be able to deal with it completely within monogamy. Like jealousy is the number one thing that kills monogamy. Like one of the reasons why people, you know, some people can be in monogamy and choose is because they have this strong jealousy. It's like a mutual jealousy. Like, okay, well, we agree we're just going to be together, and you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, neither one of us want to see the other person with somebody else, so yeah, we can kind of be in that bubble. And people might call it love or whatever, but a lot of times it's like it's a mutual insecurity. It's a mutual codependency, which is the problem in the culture, okay?
Right.
So once you start open relating, then you'll start to see, okay, do I really have compersion? Because if your partner has one sexual experience, like let's say, I'm going to use an example. Let's say God comes down to you and says, look, I'm going to let your partner have a sexual experience outside your union, and it's just because that's part of their karma, and we're going to go ahead and take care of this today. No big deal. I guarantee when they're done, they're not going to be in love with the person. They're going to love you the same. You guys will be perfectly fine. It's all good. No disease, no STD, no pregnancy, nothing. It's 100% fine, right? God comes down and tells you that. So your partner has that experience. Now, how do you feel afterwards? If you feel a way about it, then you've got self-esteem issues and self-love issues, period.
Wow. Why? Why would you say that?
Because, well, why would you feel a way? God came down and told you you guys are good. You guys are going to be together for the rest of your lives, happy, everything.
Okay.
But can she just have this one sexual experience with this guy because it's her karma? And we said it's going to happen, and it's all good. I'll even wipe her memory clean when it's all done, or his memory clean. How about that?
Right. Yeah.
Like what's the real problem? The real problem is you're lacking something within. And see, most people don't want to face that. You know, it's part of the mental illness of our culture. Who cares if another human being has a happy experience? Right. Why are you upset about that? Why does that bother you? That's called insanity. Like we too often accept that as normal. Right. Well, I just want them for myself. Well, God came down and told you that you're going to have them for the rest of your life. Let them have this weekend with this person. You know what I'm saying? Like, what's the big deal? No, you're lacking within. And again, going back to relationships, a lot of people try to find joy, happiness, and fulfillment in their partner. Right. Which is why monogamous relationships oftentimes fail. Why? Because what's the one constant in the universe? Change. Right. They change. You change. Things aren't the same. You don't do what you used to do. You know what I'm saying? And I grew. I changed. I'm a different person. What's the problem? Well, if you're not going to do that, then I don't want you. You know, like what are we talking about here? It's insanity. It is absolute, complete insanity.
Right. So this notion that we can find our happiness in another person, which feels like in our culture is the only thing that we even promote, that the car will make you happy. More money will make you happy. Another job will make you happy. A man who looks like this will make you happy. A woman who has a body like this will make you happy. So all of that is about seeking something outside of yourself, and that tells you that there is a sense of lack inside of you.
Exactly.
Right? Okay.
Exactly.
And so when your partner is having an experience of happiness and it doesn't include you, it triggers the thing in you that feels unworthy because you didn't give them that happiness.
Correct. Okay. Exactly. Yeah, and you feel a way about that.
Right.
Because you're finding your value in the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
So if your partner finds value outside of you, you feel bad. Or you feel angry, or you feel away.
Right.
But your partner finding value somewhere else has nothing to do with your value.
Right. Right.
Your value is your value.
Right.
And that goes for people who are single. Just because you're single doesn't mean you don't have any value. People rush to relationships because they feel that it's going to prove they have value.
Right.
No, those are two separate things.
I remember when I got married, and it literally, like the very next day, I felt like I was welcomed into the club of married women. Like there was a distinct feeling in the air where I could feel that married women were saying, "You're one of us now." It scared me. I was like, "Oh, this is interesting." Because there was a sense of belonging, a sense of value, like my value had increased is what it felt like. My value had increased because I had become a married woman, which is something so highly sought after in this culture. And I was also clear that, like you talk about in the book, nothing between us had really changed. The challenges that we had before we got married were the same challenges we had after we got married.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
nothing changes. You think it's going to change, but it doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
After the ceremony and everything, you just look at the same exact person. I mean, you feel good about being married.
Yes.
But that feeling from it's like your team winning the Super Bowl or something. Like you feel really good when your team wins.
Right.
But a few weeks later, I mean, all that wears off and you're back to your life.
Right.
You found happiness in that event, which is fine, whatever, but It's not going to sustain you.
And the illusion for women is that it will sustain us. Like I remember getting married and thinking, oh, like I've arrived. Like this is what I've been told that I should do since I was a little girl. I've been given fairy tales. I've been told, Cinderella, when she was miserable, a Prince Charming came along and saved her. And now she's happily ever after. The same is true for, every fairy tale for children when I was growing up was all about the happiness that marriage will offer. And I was very aware, and I was married to someone who I'm best friends with today and was really great friends with during that experience of us being married. But the level of honesty that you're talking about, we didn't know how to do that. We didn't know how to be completely honest and transparent and authentic with one another without taking it personally, without me thinking that, if I was attracted to someone. I remember I came home to him one day after I was in a master's program, and we would be in school for the entire weekend. And I came home one weekend and I said, I'm attracted to somebody in my program. And I wasn't thinking of having an affair. I just wanted to talk to my best friend about the fact that I was attracted to somebody. And he looked at me and he said, keep that to yourself. And in that moment, I was like, oh, we're in trouble.
Yep.
And we never were able to find a way to talk about the things that were most intimate to me or to him because of the insecurity, the sense of we had to have the illusion of happiness that didn't include anything outside of the two of us.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's what, there's a lot of pressure. I mean, people want to get married so bad that once they get into it, they feel like they're under a lot of pressure to maintain the illusion of happiness. Mm. Like a lot of people are together in marriage right now because they feel so much pressure to stay married, even though they're not happy. Mm-hmm. The wedding, the ceremony, all the money that was spent, people's expectations. it's just, and we don't have real relationship education in this country to just talk about the realities of relating and what marriage are. Most married people are not telling the truth about their experiences to their children or anybody. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like they're upholding that illusion.
Right.
And as a result, there's so much pressure for people to get married, men and, women especially, but men and women. Mm-hmm. That it's maddening. You know what I'm saying? Right. It's maddening, and people are cutting corners. Right. They're not telling the truth. They're not being authentic. They're doing all these things to get married, and they get in there, and it's like, whoa. You know what I'm saying? Like, and then you start having children, and they're being born into these inauthentic relationships. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? And because there's no education, you have these families being ripped apart, or these children growing up and things are not feeling right or whatever, and no one's ever talking to them, so they follow the same pattern.
Right. It's mind-blowing how prevalent it is that you're talking about. It's everywhere. This experience of people, it's like doing, following the Joneses. When I was a little girl, they would always say, doing what the Joneses do. And you just do what the people before you did, and you do what everyone else around you is doing. So this idea of open relating is really transformational. I'm currently in an open relationship, and one of the things that I find inside of myself that I am appreciating about it very much is that it really is rewiring my brain, because I'm doing something that is so almost unspeakable in our culture for heterosexual people. Like, I feel like there's more acceptance in other communities, like in, the gay and lesbian community, for there to be open relating. I also am noticing a lot of young people who are in their, in their late teens and 20s and into late 20s. There's a culture there of open relating that feels like it's really growing, and they feel very progressive. But for people who are my age, in their 40s to 50s and 60s, there's an expectation that you just are going to stop wanting sex, that you are not sexual any longer, that you don't have passion any longer. One of my aunties even said to me once, Monique, when you get older, you stop menstruating, you're going to stop producing fluid. And so sex is going to become painful, and you're not even going to like it anymore. Can you believe somebody told me that?
Yeah, I can. I actually can.
I thought to myself, is she serious? I mean, maybe I was 38 or something like that when she said it. And what I know is that she told me something that was her truth, and she is expecting me to have that be my experience. And so as I'm doing this thing now in open relationship, I'm realizing that no, my sex drive is as high or higher than it's ever been. And I'm in this experience with a partner and his wife, and we have open conversations, and my brain, like, we're having conversations about jealousy and responsibility, and we're being really authentic, and it's changing the way I feel about myself. It's creating an experience of wholeness inside of me, because I'm realizing that the things that I thought would kill me, would break my heart, would inflame my emotions, actually don't. I can do it.
Right. Yeah, and it's just, and we talk about relationships are a mechanism for growth, right? Mm-hmm. And when you open your relationship, when you get into one, you're going to expand and grow even more. And it's, it might be tough at first, but man, I mean, like you said, 3 people coming together to kind of work on relating with each other and being honest, and you see what I'm saying? Like, mm-hmm. that's the definition of intelligence, right? Let me try to be deeply authentic, deeply truthful with multiple people on the deepest level possible when sexuality is involved, when the connection's at the highest. Mm-hmm. Now you're expanding your brain into into higher levels of intelligence.
Yeah. It totally feels like that, because I find that I don't experience, the pressure goes away, right? The pressure to mask myself, the pressure to present a facade, and the facade could be anything. It's not something it's so common. Like, I'm not going to show how I look in the morning, or, if I'm having a bad day, I'm not going to share that I'm depressed. One of the things that I'm noticing in this experience is that my partner is constantly saying, be yourself. Don't cover up anything. Whatever you're thinking, say it. And that is challenging me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a challenge because we're not used to that.
Right.
I mean, again, and that has to do with our culture. That started out when we were children, right? Because you're sitting in class with your teacher, and you cannot just say what you're thinking.
Right.
When you're around your parents, you cannot just say what you're thinking.
Right.
Which is, I don't like you right now, or I think what we're learning is BS, or whatever. You cannot say what you really feel. When you're with your boss, you cannot say how you really feel.
Right.
So the culture teaches you to suppress the real you. Mm-hmm. And so we have to start to unlearn that, unpack that.
That's profound. Well, I'm so grateful. We only touched this just a little bit, but can you tell our listeners where they can find your book, where they can find you, how they can work with you, and just all the incredible things that you have going on that can help us?
Yeah, you can find the book on Amazon. It's available in paperback and Kindle version. It's in pre-launch right now. I'm officially launching the book on October 25th, but it is available. And to find me, you can go to JujuMamaLoveAcademy.com, or just JujuMama.com, JujuMama.com, and you can see, all of our schools and the classes we teach, and also buy some of our books, etc.
Well, thank you so much, Rakhem. I'm always happy to have you, because your way of living, your lifestyle, and your resources and the things that you teach are transformational. And so I encourage everyone to, check out Rakhem and Juju Mama, because they have a library filled with information that is about open relating, but also just about creating your life in the most magical and powerful ways that I have experienced on the planet.